Here's 120 volt electric hoist. Comes with a lot of nice accessories, lifting straps, some mounting hardware. What I'm going to use it for is a kayak lift. So stripping it down, take the two bolts off the bottom, and then you'll be able to remove the winch. Then the cable spool will simply slide off. That aside, two bolts from the bottom, two more spacers, and then this is a 5/8 shaft. Going to get a deep well socket, slide it on, and then weld that into the tube. Here's the socket. Cut it in half. Did a little test band there of some 1/16 metal, and then wrapped two bands around there to get the right diameter to fit into the tube. So now we'll slide into the tube, and I'm going to weld it off with these two through holes for 4 spots, and then also we'll do the circumference of it to hold it in there real good. So we're going to cut 2 half moons in these angle iron to make some clearance for the shaft. Just have a scrap piece of metal that'll act as a center for the hole saw. Doesn't have to be perfect, just getting it close. Drill. I have 2 1.25" OD shafts with a set of bearings and the drive motor on the other side that will show you that we were able to get from a winch kit. This will be the drive shaft. It'll have 2 lock collars on it. Each will hold a spool of rope. One spool will go straight down, the other spool will go over to the idler shaft and go down. Same thing with the opposite end, so we'll have 4 strings, 2 and 2, and that'll lift the bed to lift up both kayaks. So we'll put it together. I'm just gonna loosely assemble it here to get a perspective of what it's gonna look like, and then we're gonna mount the angle brackets up in the ceiling. We've already got 2 mounted already. The other 2 are going to support the idler shaft again, they're already mounted. We'll lock the shaft in place later and put the retaining nuts on for the screws, string up the spool of string on each end, and we're going to go on this side and take a look at the drive motor. For this end of the shaft, we welded in the 5/8 deep well socket. I have a couple 4 plug welds on there as well, and then we welded the perimeter of the socket into the tube, and that will accept the shaft of the winch motor outlet, just like that. To mount the winch motor, I just made a simple angle bracket. Has the same profile here, same mounting bolts, but these will match the underside of the winch motor. So we'll go ahead and put that on, and I'm going to Loctite these on as well. These we shouldn't have to take off. Even if we want to get at the motor, we'll just take it off here. And these will actually be up against the ceiling once we mount it up to the roof. So you won't even be able to access these bolts. Okay, so that'll mount up like that. Bolt it together. Drive shaft again, one spool of string secured with this split collar, and I'll get a close up of this later, but I've just got a hole bored through that we're gonna tie the string on for dropping straight down, and then this spool string will again go over to the idler pulley and create the 4 points. All right, we'll get it hung up in the ceiling and go from there. Split collars, and I bored a hole through the split collar and then put a chamfer on it so that it doesn't cut into the poly cord that we're using. This poly cord is a 1,000-pound test, so plenty strong, and we've got 100 feet of it. We won't use nearly that much. We're going to use 10 foot to get to the floor to the ceiling, and then 6 foot to get from the driven shaft to the idler shaft, and then down to the floor. So that'll be 6 foot across and 10 foot down. So 2 of the ropes will be 17, we need 16 usable. And then the 2 ropes coming off of the driven shaft will just be 10 foot to go straight down. So I thread it through, I just put a simple knot on the one end. And then we're gonna go 6 foot center to center with these split collars, and we're gonna wind the cord up on the same side. So as this winds, it'll move that way, and as that collar winds, it will also move the same direction. So the center to center of the ropes should stay consistent, which matches up with the 6 foot cradle that we've made out of wood to support the kayaks. So we're gonna trace the cradles for both kayaks here. Just gonna use an offset to scribe the pattern. We'll cut that on both sides, line them with carpet, and that'll hold the kayaks. We're gonna get our brackets mounted up in the ceiling, and we're gonna get our center line at 22 inches. So we're putting the center line of the axis of this tripod at 22. So when we spin the head to get the other end of 22, we don't change this distance. All right. Perfect. Okay, so now we got our 22 inches off the ceiling. We've already got 2 brackets mounted. So we'll screw these 2 brackets in, and then we'll put our pipes up, strain, and hook it up to the cradle for the kayaks. All right, so we're 19 inches off this beam to make it square, and then what I'm doing, since we're holding such a load, is I'm making sure I find the center of the joists are going this way, but I'm just finding the edges of it with a finish nail. So I'm going about 1 inch. There, and I hit it in both spots. That means that if I drill in the center, I'm gonna hit the center of the joist. So I already measured 24 and 24. That got me close, but I just confirmed it again with the finish nail, just to make sure that, again, we're getting our lag screws in the center of the joist. Then we'll drill a pallet hole, and we'll bring up our brackets. So this is the drive end with the socket welded in, and it just receives this hexagonal shaft and goes into the socket, and that will also allow us to get the spacing correct between the two brackets. You got the shaft?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put the motor down.
Here's the finished product. The ropes are set at about a 6 foot by 6 foot square to meet up with the wooden cradle that supports the kayaks. You can see a limit switch there on the winch. I just added a simple bar to extend it so it makes contact with the kayaks when they come up to the ceiling, and it automatically stops the winch from traveling up any further. Here's a good look at the split collars, much more robust than a single shaft collar with just one set screw. And then the side brackets that attach the rope to the cradle. The cradle then has 1x4 wood as a cross member to keep everything square and rigid as you load the kayaks on and off. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more content. Next up will be 8-foot trailer tilted up and out of the way by the same winch mechanism. Thanks again.